guests, John Tweed and Sarah Tweedle. I'm going to read this to you. John Tweed started his musical journey at age 8 with his first guitar lessons. At 17, he booked his first professional gig and hasn't looked back. The legendary producer Robert A. Bumps Blackwell, Little Richard, Sam Cooke, signed John at 20 years old. John's 4-octave range, proficiency on guitar, and showmanship has delighted audiences worldwide. After seeing John perform on stage at the Welk Theater in Branson, Andy Williams said, "What a voice, what a range. You are a terrific entertainer." Sarah Tweedle has been performing in Branson most of her life and was voted Female Vocalist of the Year in 2010. This duo does everything from Johnny Cash to Grace Potter and the Nocturnals, the Beach Boys, and to Bonnie Raitt. They rock out with a full band and entertain as an acoustic duo. Sarah has a certificate in theater from the American Musical Dramatic Academy and has performed at the Welk Theater and the Americana Theater. And she has performed regional on the Carnival cruise lines, party band as a singer. Now she does many plays and musicals in the Springfield Contemporary Theater.
Wow.
That's a lot, isn't it? Join me in welcoming John and Sarah, please.
Thank you all.
Hello, thank you so much.
That is so neat.
It's definitely weird when you hear it read back to yourself a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
Yes.
thank you all for coming. We
Thank
got
you
friends
so much
out
for
here.
having us. We've been talking about this all day, that we're so excited to sit down and hang out and have a conversation together. We're glad you all want to listen.
It is a
Hang
little
out.
bit weird. Usually when you get introduced, you start singing. That's the next thing that you do.
Yes.
But we'll have some, it looks like it's almost like sitting in your living room here, so that's great. We're just going to talk. I'm going to interview you, I guess. And
Yeah, well, I'm excited we are a father-daughter duo, which you don't see very often. And I am so grateful that I've gotten to spend my whole life growing up in the music business, but it's only like that because he started it first. So that feels like the right place to start.
well, chronologically, I guess.
Yeah, maybe a little chronologically.
We'll start at the beginning, and we might jump around. My mom and dad were so supportive of me musically, and so at around age 7, they gave me guitar lessons. I was fascinated with guitar. And I learned a few chords, and my mom drove me once a week I still remember, it was Mr. White, and she would drive me to his house. He had
And where was this?
This was in Lakewood, California, in the Los Angeles area. That's where you were born, out there. And then we moved to Branson, Missouri in 1995. So I tell folks we got there as quick as we could. But my mom would drive me for guitar lessons, and this teacher had it was a garage, and 1/4 of the garage was partitioned off with paneling in the walls. There was one door to go in, and there's no windows. And he smoked like a chimney. And I was, back in those days, you didn't worry about it, but nowadays you probably would a little bit. But I learned how to play guitar from him. And then in 2nd grade, I was 7 years old, and I learned a very valuable lesson. They had a show and tell. And so I took my guitar to class, and I sang one of the songs that we had in our music book, and I still remember the title of it. It was called "My Home's in Montana." Okay, so I sang this one song, and the kids enjoyed it. And there was this little girl. I still remember her name. Her name was Jean Marie McDaniel.
Okay.
How's that for a memory?
Jean Marie, shout out.
Jean Marie, shout out. This is a whole bunch of years ago, and she said, "John," she said, "I want to tell you something." And I said, "Well, we're going to have recess in a little bit." And she said, "Well, I'll tell you now, I love you." So we were boyfriend and girlfriend for one recess. We held hands at recess, and that was it. But I learned a very valuable lesson at 7 years old. I learned that ladies like guitar players. And all these years, a whole bunch of years later, there was a lady that I impressed as a guitar player, which is a huge reason why you're here today.
Yeah, I was going to say, I also, however many years later, married a guitar player. So it's like, yeah, it just keeps going.
So that was my start. Then we were just a middle-class family. It feels like it's dropping just a little bit, but, and we were okay. We weren't rich. But I was also interested in scouting, Cub Scouts and things like that. And but we couldn't afford to do both. So my mom said, well, John, we can do one or the other, but we can't do both. So you'll have to choose between guitar lessons or scouting. And I'm real happy that I chose guitar lessons. 'Cause, otherwise.
Would you talk about a little bit about as you got a little bit older and as a teenager, 17, playing in the high school and working your way into music lessons into LA with Miss Tina?
Oh, wow, that would be, yeah. I'd never really sung that much, but they had talent assemblies at Lakewood High School. It was a big school. They had. Back then, high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. The 9th grade was still junior high. We had 4,000 students in 10th, 11th, and 12th. So there was like 1,500 in my graduating class. So
mine had 250.
In the whole school?
In my graduating class.
250. Yeah. Wow. So they had a wonderful auditorium that seated 2,000 students, and you would get they had talent assemblies, and I volunteered to sing, and I'd never really done it before, but yeah, I a little shaky and a little quivery voice, but they enjoyed it, and I even got a standing ovation. So I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. So, and my folks were very, very supportive, and at 17, I got my first gig in a bar. Wasn't old enough to drink, but I got to make a few dollars doing that. I think I still remember the pay. It was $25 a night, and I had a buddy of mine that joined me, and I gave him 10, so I made 15. But then. What was the progression of your playing shows and working and getting, used to that everyday sort of musical working in Southern California that eventually brought you to Branson? Wow, that's a great question. Isn't she a good interviewer? Yeah, where's the applause signs? But at age, when I was 20, there was a radio show in Orange County on FM radio. It reached quite a few people. It was called Exposure Time. And so, that's kind of has a ring to it. But so I went in, and they did it at a 24-track recording studio. They didn't need that many tracks because it was just me and a guitar, but it was a professionally done deal. And it went very, very well. And because of that, I got introduced to a guy named Robert A. Blackwell. And he was a record producer, and his claim to fame was he discovered Little Richard, he discovered Sam Cooke, he wrote Good Golly Miss Molly, and Rip It Up, and Ready Teddy, and Lucille. He had 26 gold records to his name, and he thought I was a good enough singer to put under contract. So I went under contract to Bumps back then. That's my dad, guys. And I got to do some fun things, got to meet some really neat people. I got to sing a soundtrack for a motion picture. Let me start. It was called The Take, and the star was Billy D. Williams. Oh. He went on to do, was it Star Wars?
Yeah.
Billy D.
Mandalorian, right?
Yeah, Billy D. Williams.
Maybe.
And we recorded it at a guy's studio. He had a studio. His name was Fred Carlin, and he was I got to see and hold an Oscar for the first up close and personal that was up, and he had a studio in his attic, and he had won an Academy Award for the movie Lovers and Other Strangers. I don't even know if I've ever seen it, but
movie nights.
but yeah, we got to do a lot of fun things. Bumps passed away not long before I met your mom, I think. But yeah.
So, starting out with Bumps, early 20s, right? What was it that happened from your early 20s after working with Bumps that eventually led you and Mom to deciding to uproot us from California into the beautiful Ozark Hills?
A whole bunch of bar gigs. And I played some dudes. In fact, when I was still with Bumps, I did a couple up on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. One was called Gazzari's, and it was on the Strip. Some of these places, they didn't even have a front door. They had a black curtain, and everything was black inside, and you'd go in there and I'd do, what do you call them, when you're auditioning?
Open mic,
Yeah.
sort of.
Well, no, they were
Like a cattle
just,
call?
yeah,
Like a cattle call sort of thing?
presentations, for other buyers,
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but yeah, a whole lot of nightclub gigs. I sang for Disney at the Disneyland Hotel, and my kids were real little at the time, and they thought Dad was pretty awesome because I could get them into Disneyland for free.
I remember. Well, if
Yeah.
we're starting to talk chronologically, I remember some of the very first times I ever sang in front of a group of people. I was on his lap singing my ABCs at Disneyland Hotel.
That's right. And she got a standing ovation, folks,
Yeah.
singing her ABCs.
I don't do the ABCs anymore.
Well,
My
maybe-
go-to joke. It turns out people are much less forgiving now when I miss letters. So, yeah,
For sure.
we don't do that.
I'm taking advantage of today's technology.
Here
Oh,
you
you
go.
got it right here? Because I wanted to interview,
Well, we have that.
you just a little bit too, since we're going, I was remembering the first time that you were interested, she was affected by music. And you were standing in front of the television set, and there was a movie on called Feifel Goes West. And tell them about what happened.
Oh, I purposely block it out because what happened then might happen right now. Yes,
Okay.
I remember there's a song in that movie. If he sings the first couple notes, I will just instantly burst into tears. We don't
Just so
talk
you-
about it. We don't.
But we're going to
we
do
don't-
it right now.
No, you can. Okay.
We're going to do it right now. Okay, here was this. I'll just do a one line of it so
You think I'm kidding? Like if I'm going to finish the interview, I'm not
But
listening.
here's the song that the little mouse is singing, and his little Feifel mouse, and he's singing, somewhere out there beneath the pale moonlight, and she could barely stand, and she couldn't pre-verbal, and she started bawling and just crying, and so affected by the music there. It was just so cool. And I knew then that I was in trouble.
That's
and,
what music can do to people.
for
And when
sure.
you're born into a family that recognizes and appreciates music, you're given the room to feel those things and recognize those things, and other people around you see when it's happening, and they, are there for you.
Oh, and I got to tell you another story, and this story is going to lead into a whole direction that you've taken in your life. Was the first time I ever sang for my mom and dad, and I was probably 6 years old or something, but we were driving through the mountains in San Bernardino. It's like Lake Arrowhead and Big Bear and that up there, and it was my dad had a 1950 Chevrolet four-door, and I was in the back seat no seat belts. They didn't exist back then. How did we ever survive that, you guys? I don't know. But I was singing a song called Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And I scooped it. I was singing it very badly. I went, somewhere over, and if you could imagine that with a soprano little kid's voice. And my dad, who was a great singer, he said, John, that's fine, but hit the notes right on the head, don't scoop them. So I went, somewhere over the rainbow, and my mom went, ooh, you gave me chills. Just like,
I haven't heard that. It's fun to think about that.
And so this is a wonderful segue because back in the day, and who's seen The Wizard of Oz back in the day when it was only on once a year on television? CBS television put it on once a year, and we would wait as little kids, we'd wait all year for The Wizard of Oz to come on, and it was a big event. There was no videotape. You couldn't tape it and watch it later. You had to be there in front of your TV, and I didn't even know it was in color until like the mid-'60s.
Color TVs were a
thing?
thing?
I thought it was in black, but we still loved it. So all these years later, I've got it on videotape.
Not just any videotape, but the 50-year anniversary special edition VHS.
Which you still have.
Which I still have, and it's autographed by one of the last living Munchkins now.
Yeah.
Yes.
But long story short on this, we watched it once a year. She falls in love with The Wizard of Oz, watch it every day, for years. I mean, you were...
My first stage performance in a show, I remember Mom and Dad putting me in dance classes with Lynn Vogan. Mm-hmm. And I was maybe 3 or 4 little girl ballet classes. And Lynn Vogan, my teacher, she had a whole dance studio, and every year she'd put on a recital. And the first show I got to do, I got to be a Poppy in The Wizard of Oz little ballet. And I remember Jacob doing it with me too. Yes. My little brother was so excited at the idea, and we got to dance around as little poppies on stage, and it turned out my entire arm is tattooed with Wizard of Oz. I was like, it's because I wore ruby slippers with my wedding dress. I walked down the aisle to Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I had poppies in my bouquet. It's a thing.
And folks, if you ever get a chance to see her live, request Somewhere Over the Rainbow, because she does it spectacularly.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah. But no, I think we all find those little things in our lives that inspire us initially, and it's fun to have a love in something that continues every time I go back to it. I learn something different. So, no, I love that.
So, then in like the let's see, you were born in 1988, mm-hmm. and I was still working, and then a year later, your baby brother was born.
Yeah, my best buddy.
And then they were in elementary school, I think first grade and kindergarten, and everybody had said, John, you need to check out Branson, Missouri. So my wife Patty and I...
Wasn't this about the time there was a 60-minute special done about Branson in about 93, 94? And you and Mom had vacationed in Branson.
No, we hadn't vacationed yet.
Not yet, but you guys came out here.
Because of that.
Because of that special. And then came back to California, and a year later, we had all...
We came to Branson in 1994, checked the town out.
Oh yeah, 94.
And we thought, wow, we can do this, kid. It'd be a great place to raise the kids. And so we went home and put our house on the market. We had a little house in Costa Mesa, California, and
where we were born.
Where you were born, yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. I just checked the Zillow on what that house is.
I've done that a few times before. I don't want to talk about it.
And it's like, oh, we should have stayed. No, I wouldn't change a thing.
No, I wouldn't either.
So then, so we moved. Before I go into this, chronologically, this is back when. Let's see. I was going to go. No, it's not, because you didn't sing a whole lot until we got to Branson. So we're going to get to Branson, folks.
9. We moved to Branson when I was 7, and the first time I sang in front of a crowd, I was 9.
So we come to Branson, and I was thinking, well, I'll just do a couple auditions, and they're going to just roll out the red carpet for you, right? Wrong. I didn't know a living soul, had no connections in Branson, Missouri whatsoever, and it's a pretty tight-knit town. So what I did do, I got a job singing for tips at a place called Caufelt Crossroads. It's down there in Branson.
Not anymore.
It's not there anymore?
Oh. No, not anymore?
It's not there? Oh.
Man.
But anyhow, it was like a flea market kind of thing. They had little vendors and crafts surrounding like a couple of acres.
Yeah, it was like a horseshoe of fun little vendors and shops and stuff.
So I set up a tip bucket, and I had a nice little sound system out there, and played music for tips. And then I'll never forget it. One day, these two ladies came by, and they listened for the longest time, and I had a little cassette. Back in those days, you had cassettes. And they bought my $5 cassette, and they left a note that they both signed, and they said, "John, whatever you do, don't give up, because one day you're going to have your own show in Branson, Missouri." And that was, yep. And so that wasn't...
Not too much longer after that.
Well, there was another place that I played for tips. And it was I graduated from playing for tips at Caufelt Crossroads to playing for tips on the Strip. Okay. And there was a little, it was, I'm trying to remember what was a corner street, but it's right across the street from where
the Titanic is now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Where the Titanic is now, just on the other side of the street from that. There was a T-shirt shop, and it had a little wooden patio like thing, little deck, and they let me set up out there, and it was the T-shirt shop and the deck and the hot dog stand right there, and they gave me free hot dogs too, and it was because that times were a little tough. So and then just on the other side of that was a gas station. So my chops were pretty good, because I'd been playing, 5 hours a night, 5 nights a week out in Southern California. And this young lady drives up, and she gets gasoline in her car, and she's listening, and she comes over and she says, "Boy, you're really good." She says, "My dad is putting on this television presentation, and it's going to be filmed at the Country Tonight Theater. It's going to be called New Star Challenge. It was going to be Branson's answer to Star Search." Well, they had 9. They were going to have 10 artists, and 9 of the roster was filled, and they had one more. She said, "What do you think? Would you want to do it? I'll go get my dad, and you can sing for him right here and see what he thinks." And she did that, and he said yes. And so it was like within a month after moving to Branson, I was on doing a television pilot live on stage with it was Branson Teleproductions. The MC was Bob Eubanks, so I've got a videotape now of being introduced by Bob Eubanks, and it was pretty spectacular and fun. But they announced the winners of each category. I was of course in the male vocalist category, and I didn't win. And Sarah, you remember what you did?
Oh, I mean, I just remember crying through the whole thing. That's what I remember. That sounds about right. I remember being so excited, but also so overwhelmed and being like a little kid and in the front row, and Jacob was there. And I remember meeting Bob and seeing all of the things. And I also just remember it because I would have been 8, maybe?
Yeah.
8 or 9.
But
I just remember being
crying.
a little bit
had,
overwhelmed and crying the whole time.
They had lots of the MCs. Glenn Campbell was one of the MCs of the show. Tony Orlando was one of the MCs of the show as well. And so you were crying after the show. And what a wonderful guy. Tony Orlando came down to comfort you. And and he held your hand and he said, Sarah, here's what happened. Elvis did a talent show and he didn't win it. And he said something to the effect of, don't you worry, because the cream comes to the top. And
Thanks,
he comforted
Tony.
you, and you stopped your crying. And from there, I didn't go immediately into having my own show in Branson for another 4 years. And there were, Branson was booked. You couldn't get a theater then, and you would lease a time slot in a theater. Most of the performers in Branson don't own their own theater. Somebody else owns the theater, and they lease a time slot.
No one actually wants to own a theater. Nobody wants to do that.
Branson is a rare bird. Yeah, it's a rare duck. The audiences are wonderful, but there is a lot of shenanigans that go on in Branson just under the... Oh. I thought
Siri said something.
I turned that off. I'm on airplane mode, and it said something.
Siri was answering a question nobody asked her. That's all.
Just thought But so okay, so we're at a point where I can bring you into this.
Oh, goodness.
I got a job singing at one of the timeshare resorts. It was called Sunterra, and they had a little breakfast room there, and they had entertainment, to entertain the guests that were coming through and to show off a little bit. And there was 2 performers, and their names were Shorty and Marta Robbins. And that's the first time that I ever heard you really sing when you were really going for it and trying to, it wasn't your...
really put that together.
Wasn't your
Shorty and Marta.
ABCs. It was Shorty and Marta.
Yeah.
And maybe you can tell them that story.
Well, I remember moving to Missouri and then going back to California during the summertime to visit Grandma and Grandpa. And I remember being about maybe 8 or 9, and Leanne Rimes had just released her country album called Blue, and she was 13 at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love her. I want to be her. And I remember we had gone out for the summer. I had maybe a $20 bill or something. And every time Grandma would take me out shopping, I'd go, but Grandma, I've got that $20. I would like to buy that. And she later told me, she goes, that $20 lasted a whole lot longer than $20. But I remember with whatever that was, we bought that first cassette tape, and I would sit and listen in my room at Grandma and Grandpa's house. And Dad was working, singing at different resorts and things. And I back then, my brother and I would go to work with Dad. And we get to hang out at all of the resorts, and we get to run around, and we made friends with all the activities people and all the other musicians. And I just got, I guess, sort of a wild hair, had made friends with this couple, Shorty and Marta. Mm-hmm. Was that Walking After Midnight, maybe, that I would have done? Because I don't know if they would have, I don't know. Anyway, it ends up that I was about 9, mm-hmm. and on a whim, they're just playing like an afternoon. And they're like, yeah, let's let the little derpy 9-year-old get up there. Like, yeah, we'll try. And then apparently it was okay enough that I got to do it a few more times.
It was a whole lot more than okay. It was, she nailed it. And you were, I guess you were trying to emulate Leanne Rimes a little bit, but you did it in your own, you did your own thing with it, but you had the falsetto with the little
yodel thing, in there.
Nailed that, and a perfect pitch. And
I remember though, I mean, my parents, mom and dad, were always very supportive of all of the things, but I never really remember going to dad as a little girl going like, hey, let's learn this song together. I want to do this. It was always something I kind of did on my own in the back bedroom, and then just kind of, once I felt ready, remember going to dad and going, he was doing a little show like out under the pavilion, and one of the activities directors was a friend of ours, and Heather would get up and sing with you once in a while.
Yeah.
And I remember just kind of going like, hey, maybe I would like to do one. And I go, how about this? And dad plays by ear, so Heather and I kind of hum the first couple bars of this song, and then get up and sing Blue with dad for the first time at 9 years old. And
it was incredible.
Here we are.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, then, like I was saying earlier, there were no theaters that were really available. They were, back in those days, Branson was really rocking. And so we were able to book a show at a place called Planet Branson. They never could figure out whether they wanted it to be a bar or a theater or a church.
Or a ticket outlet or
a
anything.
ticket outlet.
Yeah. It was lots of things.
So for the first 2 years, we did our first show there in 2001, and we were there for 2 years, and got really good reviews, got good write-ups in papers, and then one of the owners of one of the theaters on the Strip, it was called the Carnival Theater. It has been since demolished. Which maybe that could be a bad sign, if several of the theaters that you've sung in no longer exist. But anyhow, it was the Carnival Theater, but Mr. Mo Bandy was playing there, and he did 2 years there, and so I got to meet Mo, and I was doing an earlier in the day show, and he was doing the evening show. And you didn't really start performing with us then.
No, I think more regularly when I was about like 15 or 16, a little more high school, like more regular.
Yeah. Well, then Mo moved from there to what became his own theater for a little while, it was originally called the Thunderbird Theater. It was that one. It was have you all been to Branson? Yeah, of course. Yeah, you sound like you know what I'm talking about. This was a theater directly across the street from the Walmart in Branson, kind of hung over a cliff. And so I was there for 2 more years with Mo Bandy. And then Mo left, and Clay Cooper started his own theater gig there, and he headlined that. And so I stayed there with Clay Cooper for 3 more years. And then, by then you were probably a junior in high school?
Sophomore, junior.
Sophomore?
Yeah.
But we were doing an afternoon show at a matinee at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and school let out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So by intermission,
I made it on stage for the end of Act 1. I was like, I would rush to the theater, I'd throw a dress on, and Dad and I would be able to do 1 or 2 numbers before intermission. And then...
But for a while, yeah, and then... can I tell them about the one time that...
I was just retelling this story the other night, yeah.
So this was at a time, this was before you had been on stage. There was a time when you would just come, and I would, during intermission, and you weren't there before, you weren't there at all during the first half of the show. And so I introduced Sarah, and crickets. There was nothing. So I said, we had a nice full audience, and I said, folks, I got to be a dad for a minute here. Hold on. So I set the microphone down, and my piano player filled in a little bit. So I go backstage to the green room, and you were on the couch, sound asleep. And so I just let you sleep, and I said, well, folks, we're not going to have Sarah today, but you were just...
I remember, because of course you're high school, like I'm doing marching band and plays, and I'm doing the show and all sorts of things, and I'd gotten there. We had done a number together in the first half. Like I'd already sung for the crowd. And then I just happened to lay down on the couch at intermission. He walks past my sleeping body to start the second half of the show. And then I wake up when the show's over and I go, what happened? Oh my gosh, I missed a cue. He's like, oh yeah, no, you were sleeping so soundly. It was so cute. I was like, you should have woken me up. What is happening? I was so embarrassed. Oh yeah,
so you've had nightmares about that.
I still do. And still have nightmares about falling asleep and missing cues because we've done it. And yeah, I was like, I just happened to lay down for 5 or 10 minutes and out I was. And
that's kind of a entertainer's typical, maybe not so typical nightmare. But I still have one where there's a show I got to do, and it's on like a campus at a college theater or something, and you can't get there, and you can't find it, and you don't know the material. And,
I had more of them within the last couple of months.
Tell them. I want to fast forward just a little bit here. Well, actually, to yesterday. Sarah has been in a community theater production of the Little Whorehouse Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. Yes. And they did, a 2-week run?
3 weekends.
3 weeks, 3 weekends, and it was spectacular, just great fun at the Fox Theater. And tell them about it.
It was a really great experience. It's been really fun. Currently, I'm the music and events manager at a local brewery in town. I'm over at Hold Fast Brewing. And I'm kind of the cruise director there. I get to host trivia and music bingo, and our band plays there regularly, and I get to book all the music. And one of our regulars, who's become a dear friend, is a director for a lot of the community theater productions in town, and getting to do a musical in the winter when everything slows down is really great. I studied, to go forward and backwards, we moved to Branson, and then when I went to college, I studied theater at a music conservatory in Los Angeles. So I studied musical theater, which is my love and passion, kind of a nice little mashup of, live singing. And to get to do a musical again, it's just so much fun. And doing volunteer work in the community, when you're volunteering, you know that you're there with other people that are there because they love it. When you're volunteering, you're there with people who are just so passionate and excited about what they're doing. And we just did, like Dad said, the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas with the Springfield Contemporary Theater. And did 3 weekends at the beautiful Fox down on the square, and we closed yesterday. So closing night is always bittersweet, and there were lots of tears, but it was a fun, wonderful experience, and it's always just exciting to...
And you were spectacular.
Oh, thanks, Dad.
You were just great.
Well, you were spectacular. So here's the other fun thing. My husband is a guitar player, and he was playing rhythm guitar in the pit. So we had a week of rehearsals together. He was on stage with me, but he also plays full-time with a local band called Machine Gun Symphony. And he had a night where he had to go play a show and make our mortgage payment. And the only person that he knew he needed to call to sub for him was Dad. So for... growing up in music, we played together. When you do shows, you're yourself, or like a heightened version of yourself. When you're doing musicals and you're a character and it's fun to play pretend and dress up with all your friends, it's kind of a different world. And not something that I'd ever really gotten to share with Dad or Drew. So to do the show and to know that the guitar player on stage was someone I would trust with my life, you go like, this is a great experience. So I jokingly, there was one show Dad filled in for Drew on, and so I got to do the whole show and be on stage with either Dad or my husband. We were joking around backstage. I was whoring around on stage with my dad and my husband. That was a little weird. But also, it's theater. There's, there's an illusion of things that are and are not happening. And my husband and I, we've been together 15 years. We have a rule: what happens on the stage stays on stage. It's like, there you go.
And from a father's point of view, I'm sitting in the audience, conflicted, but crying because the whorehouse is closing. It's really sad, but oh yeah, I got to fill in, and it was playing guitar in the what you would, I guess, refer to as the orchestra pit, but they had I was nervous because I don't read music all that well. I mostly play by ear, and it's like 75 by ear and 25 music. But I was able to get through it, but I'm reading the music and listening for the cues, and the chicken or the rooster crows, and that's when you start. And I'm thinking, don't screw this up.
Yeah, and it's so fun being backstage. Mind you, we had been rehearsing since December, and the band doesn't get to come in and start working with you until the week before you open. You get a tech week. So the band, they have their big 5-hour rehearsal where they all meet for the first time and run through the show, and then they're with you every night leading up to opening night, that final week before you open. And, oh, sorry, I forgot where I was going. What were we talking about? Leading up to it and doing the things together, and the cues, and...
Cues.
Yeah, it's gone. No. No, it's gone. It was fun.
But back a little bit to our career in Branson, this young lady.
Unlock your iPhone first.
No, you don't.
You can turn that off now. We don't need that. That's in airplane mode, folks. So anyhow, but this young lady. During our tenure in Branson, she won Female Vocalist of the Year twice. And
when I won Female Vocalist of the Year, he won Male Vocalist of the Year. So we're Male Vocalist of the Year twice.
Knuckles that. And we won Show of the Year one time.
Yeah, we got to do that.
And it was such a treat to when we were able to put our heads together and completely write a show, which was the last one that we did in Branson, called Reelin' in the Years. It was a 1970s music show, and with a full band and
I think we've been lucky in that as a father-daughter duo, so many of the male-female songs that are out there are romantic songs, and we're not singing those. Which means we're faced with a really interesting and unique situation. You either find the duets that are not romantic in nature, or you create your own material. And we ended up creating songs and doing songs together that most people would have never turned into duets because of the unique nature of our relationship. And there were some really fun, beautiful things that we got to do together. We would joke about it. We're not going to sing Jackson. We didn't get married in a fever. And we're not singing anything from Phantom of the Opera, but
we can do Johnny Cash.
There are some fun things that we enjoy singing together, and we get to put out a unique product that other people may have not ever thought to conjure up, just because of the unique lines that we have to stay between when it comes to music and what we're performing together.
But Branson and the opportunity of being able to sing not all over the country, as well as Branson, and sometimes all over the world, has been just a joy. But nothing is the height of my career is getting to perform with this young lady, my daughter, right here, and it's an absolute joy.
Thanks, Dad.
That's the best that I am is with her. And
me too.
and-
We are each other's biggest fan, and we inspire each other, and it's so fun to push each other. And there's not any other vocalist I've ever been on stage with that challenges me the way that you
And
do,
back
to
at you.
continue to be better and just
Back at you for
keep,
sure, Sarah.
upping the stakes and pushing each other to be better and do our best. And if there's one thing I've always appreciated and really learned from Dad as an entertainer and a showman, not everybody in the audience is gonna be a music major, but everybody in the audience is gonna know what they like, they're gonna know what they think sounds good, and they're gonna know what feels genuine. And an audience can tell when you are trying to pull energy from them. And the one thing that Dad has taught me that I carry through everything, you give to the audience. If you are lucky enough, they will give back to you, and you will feed each other, and you build a beautiful symbiotic relationship. And if you can come to the stage with that in mind and do that always, then everybody leaves feeling full and fulfilled and having a wonderful experience. It's not a take. It's a give back and forth to each other, and I appreciate that
I
so much.
appreciate that too, Sarah. Well,
Thank you.
yeah, we've done shows in Branson for full houses, and I've lost track of the number of shows we've done for 12 people in the front row when it looks like a firing squad.
I've done shows where there were 4 people in the cast, and there were more people on stage than in the crowd.
Yeah, but those 4 people
They
deserve
got the same
the
damn
best
show.
that you've got.
Yeah.
I think it's question and answer time. If you guys
Have
have
we been
any questions
chit-chatting
about
for
anything,
too long?
and
happens.
then I did bring a guitar. So if y'all would like to hear one song before you take off, we'll be happy to do that
Guys wanna
for
hear
you
one?
too. But anybody have any questions? I guess yes.
Mike.
What's your favorite role that you have played in musical theater? And is that the same play or the same presentation as your favorite presentation of musical theater?
Ooh. I'd say my musical theater dream role, as I'm thinking about it, probably Mary Poppins. And I have not done that. I think that would be really fun. We got to see that show when I was 19 as a family. We got to travel to the UK and got to see Mary Poppins in London. And it's a wonderful, wonderful stage show. My favorite role on stage, aside from John Tweed's sidekick daughter, I know Whorehouse is, we just finished it, but it really was a really great experience, and really was a fun experience getting to meet everybody in the cast and play a role that wasn't, I've done a lot of ensemble work where you're playing multiple roles and you're there to support everybody, and it has its important, place doing all of the things back and forth, and there's so much to keep track of. But getting to do a part like Angel in The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, where I just got to focus on one character and do one thing, that was really fun.
Rock of Ages, talk about that.
Rock of Ages, that was the Springfield Contemporary Theater show we did last winter. I played waitress number 1, as well as a couple other ensemble things, and that was another really fun show, another great, for me it was an re-entrance into the theater community in Springfield. When I was 16, 21 years ago, was it? Yeah. My first community theater show, I was in the ensemble of a show called Once Upon a Mattress at the Little Theater. It was 2006. And before I moved to Springfield from Branson, the last show that I did, I played Elvis's girlfriend in the $1 Million Quartet at the Welk, and I did that for 2 years. And that was another experience, you know, when you're doing it for work, and it was the only girl part in the show, and the show is mostly about the boys, and they just need a little, like, eye candy breakup once in a while. You know, I do like a couple numbers here and there, say a couple lines just to break it up so it wasn't all the dudes all the time. And that was a fun experience, getting to do that with those gentlemen. But then it was 8 years before I auditioned for another musical. I'd moved to a new town. My husband and I bought a home together. We were kind of reestablishing ourselves up here in Springfield and trying to figure out, you know, where it would make the most sense to continue to find the places to perform and do those things. And Rock of Ages fell in my lap. The director's a dear friend and someone I met at Holdfast and invited me to audition. And that was kind of my new foot in the door in theater here in Springfield post 2006.
Question? You were great at both parts.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't find you believable as a shy girl in a blonde wig. You were excellent.
Oh, thank you.
So are you going to continue to do that one winter show every year, you think?
Yeah, well, I think coming off of the show, and we've had talks about this too, as professional musicians, there is a point where you're doing things for work and there's the money added element, and no matter how much you love your job and what you do, there are going to be days that feel like work. When you volunteer to do these community theater shows and you know that you're there, you're doing it because you want to, you know it's going to end. It comes with an end date and you know it's going to be over. So there's an added element of trying to force remind yourself to live in the moment as it's happening. What I have loved so much about doing those shows is the people that I've done it with, and I've done it with the same director both times. The next time he says, hey, I'm doing a show, do you want to be in it? I'll say yes. Right now, we just don't know what it's going to be yet, and maybe it'll be in a few months, maybe it'll be next year, maybe a year or two, who knows. But yeah, when all the pieces fall into place, then that will be the time. I just don't know if it's here yet.
I think we'd all like to hear a song.
Yeah.
Let's do
Papa,
it.
what are you thinking?
Sure.
Oh.
Yes.
What was that first song you did at the talent show in high school?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Your high school.
In
I know the
first,
answer to this one.
it was called Jean. It was from the movie The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, who starred Dame Maggie Smith, had the lead role in that. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. But we're going to do a yes.
When did the Branson thing sort of fade out? Was the $1 Million Quartet the last thing you did down there?
What
Television pilot that you did, my lighting company did the lighting production.
really?
Oh, cool.
Wow, yeah. That is so cool.
Out in the rain.
Yeah.
You were was it? I don't even remember it raining, but
Well, it was during loadout.
Yeah.
oh wow, wow, that's
Remember that gig? So when did you kind of quit playing down there?
when COVID hit.
Oh,
Yeah.
so not too long.
No, we were I was active there.
Yeah, Dad was very active down there.
up until up until 2020, up until 5 years ago, was very active. But the COVID thing, it made it.
Where did you play before COVID down there?
So the last time we did like a regular, hey, come see our Branson show, it was about 10 years ago. And there was, the way we were talking earlier about you don't want to own a theater, there was some back and forth with whether or not the theater we were at was going to stay open. And when it came time to, like, my understanding, when it came time to renew for the next season, we went, there's a whole bunch of different things, like, let's kind of maybe see what happens in a year or two. Dad was performing down there regularly at different resorts and things like that. Drew and I got an opportunity to go sing on cruise ships for a year. So there was kind of a point where it just kind of made sense to like, okay, maybe this theater thing is not the main focus for a second, but you can still certainly work and make a living down there. And then Dad was, you know, playing around full time, and we were all just kind of bouncing around doing different gigs until 2017 is when I moved up here, and that was the last time I did any work down in Branson.
Y'all plan to go back to work at all down there?
I would say never, but Branson is can be a very expensive hobby. So, but the COVID thing was the main, because it was a two-edged sword. You don't want people to be at risk. At the same time, you're a professional entertainer, and it's against the law to draw a crowd. Then, you know, what are you going to do? So I went in other directions, and Sarah did, and we
Shutdown there.
a whole bunch of shutdowns down. The whole town was shut down for quite a long time. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you release CD or tape or something?
Yes, I'm releasing
Yesterday.
yesterday. Yeah, and I've been releasing my original music as well as in fact, yesterday I released a song that a good buddy of mine wrote, but it's out on Spotify and all of the streams. I call them all. Nobody buys. There aren't any record stores anymore, so people listen to music. What do they call it?
Streaming.
And
I was like, you look at me like I
but,
know too. I was like, I don't know.
But if you
I had a Walkman when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I remember.
But if you would like, it's it just if you have Spotify or anything like that, just put John Tweed in the search engine, and I've got 3 or 4 things out there, and soon to be more. The one that came out yesterday is called "Things You Were Told," and it's a song about things you were told as a kid, and now that you're grown, but basically kind of a song for the child in us all. And then the next one that I'm going to be releasing, I wrote, it's called "You're Part of Me," and I wrote it before you and Jacob were born, from the standpoint of what I thought it was going to be like to be a father.
That's another song I can't listen to. It makes me
It's called "You're Part of Me," and
but it's great.
It's already been. I didn't record it until this last year, but it's done. It's finished. It's mastered, and it's going to be released. And 100% of the proceeds from this song will be going to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So I'm real happy about that. Thank you, folks, so very, very much, my friend.
Thanks for a great presentation, and I think we all appreciate the message that comes with a father and daughter kind of an outfit like you have, and your relationship with each other. Thanks for coming here and doing this.
It was
Thank you
such
for
a
having
pleasure.
us.
Thank you all for having us. Thank you.